I'm Paul Wallace. I was born in Malawi in 1985 in Lilongwe, and I went to Bishop Mackenzie, as it was known then. It wasn't BMIS at that stage, from 1990 until it was 1998. So I essentially went there from reception all the way through primary school, and then I did Form 1 and Form 2 before I left. My family has quite an extensive history and long ties to the school. My dad actually went there. He started going there for a few years in 1947, and I think he must have been one of the first students there at that time. And I always remember him telling me how small it was compared to how it turned, what it turned into when I was there. Much, much smaller, far fewer students. I think there were only about 10 or 20 at the time he was at the school. My three sisters also went there. I'm the youngest of four. I had my elder sister Pamela was there from 1978 to 1985. Amanda was there from 81 to 88, and then Helen was there from about 84 to 1991. I think my grandmother opened the original pool. I'm not sure the exact date, but it was probably in the late 40s or early 50s. My mum opened the pool that was there, I think the 18-meter long pool that I think existed as the main pool for ages. It's still there, but it's not the biggest one BMIS has. So yeah, we have a long-standing history with Bishop Mackenzie. I guess going back almost 70 years now. So I guess. I guess it's sort of interesting to know why we had the ties with Bishop Mackenzie, why my dad went there, why the rest of us went there, and what we sort of remember about it collectively. I think when my dad was growing up, Lilongwe was obviously a much smaller place than it is today. It wasn't even the capital. I think it still had about 20 years to go before the capital moved from Zomba to Lilongwe. So there weren't that many schools around, and actually it didn't last that long. I can't remember exactly what age he left, but it probably would have been something like 9 or 10, because that's when the school finished. It didn't go on any further. Anyway, we lived on a farm just outside of Lilongwe, at a place called Lingadzi. Some people might know Mbamzi, which is sort of the nearest town to it. It's about sort of 20 kilometers from the school, and so we went there, I guess, because it was the closest sort of say big school that was that was there. My dad had fond memories of it. Collectively, I think the thing that sort of sticks out and what we talk about a lot are the sports. We remember the sports days a lot. The swimming pool itself, the last time I was back at the school was last year. I went back early last year with my wife, who I forgot to mention, she actually went there as well. She was there from about 95 till 2007. She actually did her whole schooling at BMIS and all the way through to IB. And what all of us, the swimming pool brings back a lot of memories. I still remember swimming galas. I remember growing up watching videos of my sisters doing swimming galas. It's something that my dad was very proud of. This was, in the 80s when, handheld video recorders were still new, if you like, and he would love going there and filming them in their races. and they're doing the same with me. And I still remember the atmosphere. It was a big sort of social gathering. All the parents were there of our classmates, and we loved it. It was a real communal thing, and I still felt that when I I went back to the school last year, and it did actually feel quite emotional going back to it, but especially the swimming pool, which brought back a lot of fond fond memories. So I think that's the main thing for us. I'd say it's the sports days, in particular the swimming galas that we sort of remember as a family, me and my sisters and my wife and my dad too. Day-to-day life at Bishop Mackenzie, I always remember it being interesting and sort of changing the whole time, especially as I grew older. I mean, it's such, I was there from the age of whatever, from 5 to 13, when you obviously go through huge changes, and it's such a formative part of your life that my sort of memories of it changed depending on how old. When I started off, I remember I think I hated it just because it was school. I still remember, I think it was in reception, crying my eyes out. I still remember the classroom where I was, because it overlooked, the window overlooked the car park, and watching my mum drive out, and I was distraught and, just wanted her to come back as soon as possible and to leave. But then quickly, it turned into a place that I loved. It's a place where I met some of my best friends. I'd probably say my closest friends in life were from BMS. I didn't really know my wife when I was there, because she's about 5 years younger than me, but we did know each other. So there's that connection too, which is pretty special. I always remember, from my young years, I remember the fun in the playground. I remember the train in the primary school playground, the boat, the car, sitting in those, playing in those in the tunnels in the playground with my friends, joking around, running about in the sand, that type of thing. When I was a bit older, I'd gone to the rings, which were by the pool, where you would, run and jump and hold onto the ring. I'm not sure if they're still there, but those types of things. I remember the schoolwork a lot too. I remember it being pretty rigorous and demanding at various times. It was a lot of fun, especially in primary. I still remember things like learning about ancient Egypt and us dressing up as pharaohs or whatever it may be, and having days like that. But always the work was obviously getting harder the elder we got. The pressure on us, I guess, from my mum and dad to do well at school and to do well at exams, and on the academic side, always grew, and all the way, and obviously built up to secondary, where it became, that was obviously, I think it is in secondary school. I just remember thinking, okay, much more so than primary, you've got to take the academic side of things seriously. I remember subjects like maths becoming much bigger deal and much more complicated. The same with the sciences and things. So that's one thing. So it was really a journey, I think, throughout my time there. When I speak to my friends now, and even back then, when I was 13, I think it was a similar thing for them. In terms of what I learned at Bishop Mackenzie and what I tried or did, carry through into the rest of my life, I learned a lot there. I mean, without being too cheesy, I learned a lot about life. I mean, one of the things was respect for other people, and to really sort of empathize with people from all sorts of backgrounds and different nationalities. I still remember the number of nationalities. Obviously, there were more Malawians there than any other nationality, but there were, people from a lot of countries. I went to school in the UK afterwards, and it wasn't nearly as diverse in that sense as Bishop Mackenzie, and that's something I always appreciated. Certainly afterwards, when when I was a bit older and things. And I think it gave you, to me, Bishop Mackenzie gave you a really good grounding about, as I say, like other, people from other countries, other cultures, and that sort of thing. To me, it came across as a school where you got a lot of exposure to that, and that's something I think I've always appreciated and been grateful for, and I've tried to take that into my life as much as I can and be you know be aware of that and things.
Thank you. I think you also mentioned earlier about how there was always changes. I think one of the things, like, I took from my bishop experience, like every single year there was something changing.
Yeah.
I
So
think
just a second.
for the first time
Sorry, just
oh,
2
no
seconds.
worries.
Yes, sorry, carry on. In terms of the things that I remember changing about Bishop Mackenzie, in some ways it's changed a lot more since I left. When I was there, I kind of always had a sense of that Bishop Mackenzie was a place of continuity. It was, a bit of anchor in life. There were some things that happened. I still remember the opening of the hall, and I think it's, still the main hall, sort of the one near the basketball court, and attached to the secondary school. Yeah, I remember when that opened and being pretty almost in awe of it. We spent a lot of time there for assemblies, sitting for ages, listening to the headmaster. Sometimes it was interesting, sometimes it wasn't. I remember camping out there. We camped in the hall, that type of thing. So that was one of the changes, and I guess it's sort of, if anything, it was the school getting bigger throughout the time. I think secondary school, for example, got quite a bit bigger when I was there, and I don't know. I guess it spoke to the sort of the sort of changes with the Longwy itself. The city was constantly growing, and it's much bigger, really big city now compared to what it was when I first started, and that sort of thing. So I think that was maybe the main change that I noticed. It was sort of the growth of the school, and the way the school was trying to invest in itself, the hall being one example, and with other facilities too, as it got bigger, and I guess as parents sort of demanded more from them. I went back to the school last year. It was the first time for a while. I think the first time I'd been back for a few years. I quite like the fact that it was the same school. It was, just instantly recognizable in terms of the classrooms, in terms of the main gate and the driveway in, the library. But at the same time, there had been changes. It's been, let's call it's been upgraded a lot. The facilities, although they are, they're still in the same place. Most of them have been upgraded. There's now, a 25-meter pool, which wasn't there when I was at the school. The library's got bigger. I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, this is, it wasn't bad when I was there, but this is a step up. So it was nice in two ways. It still had that homeliness and community feel about it, and it still had that calm feeling, which is something I always remembered about it. And as I said, that sort of homeliness, but at the same time, you could see the changes in terms of what more had come. I love the greenery about the school. It obviously has a lot of space. It still has the big fields, the hockey field, the athletics field with the football field in the middle of it. It's still got all the field sort of near the primary school that play areas where I played so much football, in break time and that sort of thing. So it was that, yeah, it was that feeling that, this is still how I remember. And I don't live in Malawi at the moment. I live in Dubai, but if I did live in Lilongwe, still, I sort of think it would be, yeah, such a great school to send my son to. He's now 2, and I'm sure he'd like it as much as I did, even if not at the beginning, even if he still cried his eyes out big time at the start. In terms of the classrooms and the classes that I enjoyed, when I was thinking about this interview, a lot of things came back to me that I, hadn't thought about for a while, but now I remember quite well. Things like me being in Vipia House. I always remember the rivalry with Melange and Zomba in primary school. I always got annoyed with Zomba because in my year at least they were the best at sports, so they were the ones that had the people who were best at athletics, the best swimmers and that type of thing. And we used to come. Actually, we were okay at swimming. We used to compete with Zomba in swimming, but in athletics we used to come third after Zomba and Melange. That I remember a lot. And then the names of the classes, I still remember, my 2M, my teacher there was Mrs. McLean. 3S, my teacher was Mrs. Smallwood. 4B, Mrs. Best. 5B, Mrs. Vicari. 6K, and Mr. Cockcroft. All these things came back to me in the names of the teachers. For some reason, Standard 5 sticks out a lot. I mentioned the teacher there. She was called Delana Vicari. At times, she was probably the least of the strict teacher I had. And I remember us loving it. I still remember one of my friends who used to be a teacher as well at the school, swimming teacher called Mrs. Royal, Lynn Royal, coming in, and on one occasion her just saying it was chaos, but we were loving it. We were just, and she let us sort of drive away, and she had a particular style of teaching, which she could be stern when she needed to be and get us to do whatever it was, get back to our work, but a lot of the time she let us have a lot of, I don't know what you'd call it, playtime or joking around time. So I remember all those things that come back to me quite vividly now.